Welcome, everyone. I'm David Juran, a Juran Fellow and frequent host of these webinars with Dr. Joe DeFeo. This is part 3 of the series, Building a Culture of Excellence, and we've been focusing on the Juran Model. And Joe will dive us down through the Juran Model today, in that he's a very familiar traveler with this model. He's been working on it and with it for many years, starting with Dr. Juran and right up through editing and authoring the latest Juran Handbook for Quality. So it's my pleasure now. Oh, before I do, let me mention that you can ask questions. I'll be watching for them, and if Joe sees them, he may address them during his presentation, but we'll certainly look at them after his presentation and before we sign off. Now, Joe, here we go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Fearhunt, Dr. Juran. He always reminds me of Dr. Juran. If you see what this guy looks like and you see a picture of Dr. Juran, there's a younger version of him. Anyway, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this journey through the culture of excellence. This is part 3, the Juran Model. As Dave said, I manage the Juran Institute, but lately I'm just spending a lot of time having fun doing these webinars, along with a lot of other advisory type of activities. As always, you'll receive a copy of this at the end, and as always, please spend time sending in a question or getting to us and let us know what you think. Today's session is actually part 3 of our webinar series, Building a Culture of Excellence series, and we are going to look at today not what is a culture of excellence, we covered that, and why is it worth pursuing, we covered that. What we're going to talk about today is, what is the Juran take, or in other words, his guiding principles, and our guiding principles, because they have been with us a long time. So today we're looking at the Juran Model, and next month we'll be looking at the Juran Framework, and we'll give you an introduction to that too. So if you have friends that want to be here today and they can't be here, you can also find them live on our webinars page. Following this session, we have 4 more sessions, and if you are interested in getting a certificate in this series, as I will tell you at the end, if I forget, to send me an email. So let's begin. We talked about the culture of excellence and how an organization wants to be the best it can possibly be. And a culture of excellence does mean something to us. It doesn't just mean that you have an excellent product or service, or you have excellent people, or you have an excellent sales force. It means you have an excellent organization, one that is consistently pursuing doing the right things right the first time. And as we introduced the Juran Culture of Excellence model, we are going to continue further doing that today. So there are certain things that you need to think about, and every organization has some form of guiding principles. And so a number of years ago, I joined Juran in 1988, and prior to that, you really couldn't find a model, a picture, other than the Juran Trilogy for how to manage for quality. But over time, that management for quality led to various things like Toyota's House of Quality, Toyota's production system, which led to many other derivatives like the Baldrige criteria, the National Quality Awards for Excellence, the Shingo Prize, etc. And they all have some common principles. But we're often asked, what are really the heart of Juran's principles that work? And so that's what we're talking about today, the guiding principles. There are these 5 areas that we feel are very important that every organization needs to grasp at a high level. And the detail, which comes in the foundation, we'll get to at another time. So what I want to do is I want to explore each one of these. The universal principles of his guiding principles, the customer-focused importance, the infrastructure and methods, processes and enablers, and the leadership and workforce engagement. Most organizations have some form of support for these principles, but maybe not in its totality. So what is a universal principle? This is coming right from Dr. Juran's history. He always tried to get things very pragmatic. 2 plus 2 is 4, and it will always be 4, as long as nobody's playing around with that. But it's a universally, generally accepted term that 2 plus 2 is 4. And so Dr. Juran uses the term, there are some fundamental universals that once you grasp them, then you should be able to avoid the fad of the month or the program of the year, and really understand how to manage your organization better. We call these fundamental concepts the means to manage for operational and performance excellence and to achieve superior quality as the universals of quality management. They're timeless, and they should drive your organization to great extent, like culture of excellence. Now, what does change are various methods and tools to do that. Technology changes, how work gets done changes, so do some of these methods and tools. But grasping these universal principles should help you understand exactly what you need to do. Now, one of the first starting points of Dr. Juran's principles has always been you need to design quality in, you need to control what you designed, and you need to improve. No organization can be excellent unless they have a product or service that meets or exceeds its customers' need and is fit for its purpose. The only way you're going to get there is if you grasp the concept that you have to plan quality into the organization, put the resources that you need available into the budgets so that you can define, design to the voice of the customer. He referred to that as quality planning. Once you've designed something to meet the needs of the customer, you must maintain the performance of that at some level of performance. We call that quality control, and on a more broader basis, quality assurance. And this is where we evaluate our current performance, compare it to the goals we are designing to, and if there's any difference, take action on it. Quality control can come in the form of cost control, expense control, risk management, inventory control from a financial control point of view, and it can also come from a statistical process control, you name it, from a quality control. Anything that maintains performance of our goals. Now, maintaining performance to what we designed is only as effective as the designs that meet customer needs don't require change. However, customer needs change, organization and society's needs change, so we're always going to be in some form of continuous improvement. We can't just control everything. We have to look at how we're doing and make improvements. We also can't design for quality perfectly, so we always design with some flaw in our thinking that leads to a need for continuous improvement. And with quality improvement, its aim is to improve quality results. We might have waste reduction, defect reduction, create new facilities, continue new product development, anything to drive improvement. Dr. Juran also called these the Trilogy of Quality because there are 3 of them. They are universal principles. No organization can survive by just planning in a vacuum, controlling the wrong variables, and never improving. Very simple concept to grasp. He also used the analogy that this is just like leadership's understanding of the financial management principles, that we have financial planning, financial control, and financial improvement. And every year, the leaders set out to define the planning goals or the financial goals for the company. They set out structures and means of achieving those plans, and they put controls in place, metrics, monthly reports, weekly meetings, review sessions, training, skills to maintain control. And then if we're not meeting the planned goals, they go into a financial improvement. And so if you think about what is quality management, it should mimic financial management. Plan quality in, control it, and improvement. The most fundamental of his universal principles. He also went on to say that the universal principles also have fundamental steps that make them succeed. So for instance, Six Sigma is a form of quality improvement. To have effective Six Sigma, you must have leadership identifying the goals, you must have problems selected, you must carry out projects. Those projects must go through an analysis of the current performance to find causes of deficiency and get to new levels of performance. Regardless of how you want to cut it, that is a universal sequence. Problem solving is a universal sequence. You can't just jump from A to Z and expect to get the results. With these universal principles also comes the realization that my organization might be a little bit different. So you might be using different words like quality of design, advanced quality planning, quality management systems, Lean and Six Sigma. In other words, the generic quality planning, control, and improvement are often replaced by another dialect or an evolution of those terms. So don't be dismayed if you don't like the words quality planning. We use quality by design a lot, or innovative design thinking, or just design thinking. But the key to the universal principle is that no organization can be excellent without focusing on the quality of the product or service, and then followed up by quality of the process. Now, a second universal principle was Dr. Juran's learning early on in the 1920s that not every problem needed to be fixed by a large group of people. Not every problem caused the same amount of pain. Not every defect had the same impact on the cost of poor quality. His learning about this universal phenomena, as he called it, led him to Wilfredo Pareto, an Italian economist, who had studied the wealth of Italians in pre-World War II Italy and found that a relative few accounted for the majority of the wealth. And he related that to a phenomena that he found, that a relative few of the defects in the factory he was working in accounted for the majority of the loss. He noted it, and years later named that concept the Pareto Principle. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Juran and the Pareto Principle, you'll find many, many versions of the 80-20 rule. Now, the 80-20 rule wasn't fast and steady. It just said there are a few really important issues, concepts, problems, people that account for the majority. And as a business, apply those universal principles where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. So for instance, the quality by design process and method is for designing products to meet the need of the customer. When you apply that sledgehammer of quality by design or design for Six Sigma to the development of something simple like a business report, you're going to find that you have overkill. So apply the method where it best fits. Just like Six Sigma. We don't use Six Sigma in its entirety to solve daily problems. We use Six Sigma to solve large problems that have great effect. We do simple root cause analysis on the daily problems because they don't require such profound and robust analysis. So the whole point of the universal principle related to the Pareto Principle was we don't have unlimited time and resources, so focus on the most vital few. We use the Pareto Principle to select projects to focus on the vital few. We use the Pareto chart to separate the most fundamental causes of a problem or potential causes and test those to prove those causes true or not true. The 80-20 rule, as it's known today, has a great fundamental purpose. in your thinking as a guiding principle for your culture of excellence. We can't fix everything, we can't recreate everything, but we can focus on those things that are most important. There are other few universal principles, but those are the highlights and the key ones that you should really grasp as leaders. The second principle is that you can't aim those methods at anything. You can, but you won't get the desired result. For instance, I can call it quality improvement and reduce cost, but I might be able to reduce those costs at the expense of a customer experience. The right way to perform improvement is to improve the customer experience and reduce the cost. So the second fundamental guiding principle is that your organization must be in pursuit, and even a fanatical support or fanatical pursuit of an improved customer experience in your organization. Shep Hyken is a writer for the New York Times, and this paragraph helped me explain it better to you. That some companies really understand customer service. They know how to hire for it, train for it, and deliver it. Other companies claim to provide customer service, but in reality, they are grounded in an operations mentality with rules and policies that allow for little flexibility, preventing them from being any more than just average or satisfactory. And that really sums up the difference between the typical company and the company that wants to have a great customer experience. Customer experience is not just about what the customer wants, it's about how well we can deliver on what the customer wants, how well we communicate when they're not getting what they want, how well we adapt to their needs as they are adapting to their customer needs. If you don't have a customer-focused organization, you probably don't have a customer-focused mission. The irony is that everybody wants to sell their products and services or deliver great products and services, but not everyone cares about the customer in the same way as an organization that is truly thinking every day that just doing my job is all about the customer. The third aspect of the guiding principles is what we call infrastructure and methods. And we like the word infrastructure because every organization already has some form of structure, the organizational structure, the hierarchy of leadership and managers reporting to leaders and supervisors reporting to managers, as well as departments that do one job versus another, as well as different business units in different buildings in different countries around the world. That's structure. Infrastructure are those things that bridge the countries, the states, the business units, the departments. And those are not just processes. Those are councils. Those are facilities. Those are buildings. Those are training and education. Physical and organizational things that can enable us to operate more efficiently and more effectively. We can think of the methods separate from infrastructure in that the methods help us build infrastructure and move across infrastructure. So for instance, we have two pieces of land separated by a river. The infrastructure would be the bridge to cross that river. It connects the two. And we have to maintain that bridge over time. So we have to make that infrastructure livable, viable. Methods that we use and the infrastructures we have will really make or break the foundation of your organization's pursuit of excellence. Without infrastructure, you're not doing anything differently. Without infrastructure, quality improvement and quality by design projects will not bear fruit because there are big opportunities that cut across departments, across boundaries, to see end to end how the customer experience is being handled, delivered, or met or not met. If we don't have new methods to conduct an effective root cause analysis, methods to capture the voice of the customer, methods to analyze for risk, methods to provide process control so we stay in a state of control. If we don't have those things, we're just doing the same things we always did. And we're not going to get to a culture of excellence just doing the same things. We need to adapt new methods into our organization, methods like Lean and Six Sigma, etc., CMMI, so that your organization can do new things. Now, the processes that exist in our company are there for a reason. It's how work gets done. It's how we decided how we're going to bridge the gap between the supplier and our customer. We create work to deliver to our customers. And within that process of creating work, we create information that is vital to ourselves, to our suppliers, and to our customers. Nobody likes to use the word process because it connotes process mapping, flow charting, long-term analysis that doesn't seem to get done. But the reality is we inherit processes. We tend not to design them from scratch. And if we do design them from scratch, we tended not to do them in a full design and innovation thinking where we connect the customer and the suppliers and ourselves. So we have many processes within the organization that are complex, slow, ineffective, inefficient, you name it, they're there. But they got there for a reason. They were planned that way. And so if we don't truly understand how our processes work, and once again, the Pareto Principle, those key processes, then there's a pretty good chance we're not going to provide high customer experience, and there's a pretty good chance we're not going to be very efficient because complexity in process costs us money and time and wasted material and wasted labor. The enabler part of that is that there are some processes that are enablers versus some processes that carry out the production of our service or our product. For instance, the quality management system is an enabler to help our production produce product that is good. The finance department is an enabler to let us know how we are doing to the cost side of things. The supplier quality department is telling us how we are doing on the supplier side. They don't create product, but they make sure we have the right suppliers. Sales, marketing, customer service are enablers to make sure that our customers' voice is heard and translated into the process. We can look at our enablers as independent departments, or we can look at them across processes and understand how we all interrelate with each other to deliver the best possible outcome for both the business and for the customer. That requires us to have process thinking, end-to-end process thinking, and think of some processes as enablers, while others are definitely required to produce our product. Many organizations tend to chintz on the enablers. For instance, we have a service organization that requires our people to interface with customers. And we're constantly cutting the amount of people in the call center, putting pressure on those individuals to deliver more service to customers with less people. That is not an organization that's going to demonstrate excellence. The demonstration of excellence is realizing that that interface between the call center and the customer is valuable. If it wasn't valuable, why do we have it? So understand the difference between just any old process and processes that enable the business to function better, and we must maintain them. Now I'm going to pause for a second and ask Dave to check on our questions here because I get on a roll and I don't want to stop.
Well, Joe, you've had a lot of attentive listeners because I don't see any questions being asked yet. But at any point, folks, you can just use that question tool and pop in your question, and we'll be sure to pick up on it. Joe, it's rolling right along. I think we should continue.
Okay, I just want to make sure that person in the front row is awake. Okay, I want everybody to put their hands in the air and clap or jump up and down. Anyway, moving on to our next guiding principle. Now, this one is a little bit bigger than the other ones. So, I talked about the fundamental understanding of the universals of quality, quality planning, control, and improvement. And we talked about the quality management system. What we're going to show here is just what those processes enablers look like in the organization that are really important. One is on the left side, enterprise quality management, innovation and design, and breakthrough improvement, versus the right side, the workforce and people. On the right side, we want to get engagement on doing the right things, and on the left side, those are the right things. So first of all, we want to have a methodology to really understand the voice of the customer so that we can design products and services that are truly innovative and will meet not only their needs, but the needs of the business. Many people think innovation is the ability to wow a customer all the time. Sometimes it just means creating something new that brings new value at a lower price or at a higher price, but it creates a lot more value. So we have to have fundamental focus on the design of our products and services. So as quality planning as a universal principle, I want to see as an enabler an effective quality by design method in the organization. Likewise, I want to see a breakthrough improvement methodology, an ongoing live system to continuously improve performance of key process, key products, key services. Breakthrough improvement I'm talking about is the Six Sigma-like breakthrough improvement. It's necessary to thrive and always continuously look at the current products we have and find better ways to produce them, better ways to deliver them, and better ways to make profit from them. The third aspect of this enabler is the enterprise-wide quality management system. If you think about the production department in a manufacturing company as being the responsible party for producing good quality, you may also think of the quality department as being the people helping them do that. That is the little Q thinking. Why? Because the product itself is only a piece of the customer experience. The product itself doesn't define the experience that the customer is going through. As a matter of fact, the product may be less significant than the total service they receive. So it's important that we maintain not just control of little q quality, but we maintain control of all our key enabling processes. We do that through some form of a quality management system. Most quality management systems focus on the production side of their business, the supply side of their business, but it doesn't tend to go far enough into the service side of the business, the HR processes, financial processes, data integrity processes. So when we talk about a quality management system and we put the word enterprise, it means we need to make sure we have control and we are assured that we have control throughout the entire organization. Otherwise, there will be a breakdown in performance at some point that will cause risk and will cause hazard. Likewise, everybody wants to get employees engaged. Matter of fact, everybody wants to have a total accountable workforce. But you're not going to get accountability and engagement unless you provide an opportunity for engagement and you provide them the necessary skills to be engaged. If you were around 30 years ago, there was a push for quality circles. employee involvement teams, get the employees involved in fixing the processes. And there was a lot of fanfare, and I was one of those cheerleaders. And then I would notice a rapid decline in attention span and fun and results. Why? Well, leadership wasn't providing enough skill and talent development, and it was holding us accountable for managerial processes that we couldn't change. It wasn't until breakthrough improvement methodologies, better quality management systems, and more design techniques enabled the employee to participate and understand what they could do to contribute. So employee engagement today means engaging employees through the pursuit of improved design, improved process performance, and quality management of that performance. So if you want a culture of excellence and you're not willing to teach new methods, new skills, new techniques, or provide a mechanism to be engaged, you're not going to get an accountable workforce nor an engaged one. Matter of fact, you can have an excellent product with a very poorly engaged workforce, and eventually it will catch up with you. They always catch up with you. So when we think about process and enablers, we think about process analysis of any process, but we also have these really important processes that act as enablers to enable us to have great products, great services, and great people, which lead us to great results. And the last principle in our guiding principles is the role of leadership. Obviously, leadership has a role wherever you are in the organization, but what role do they actually play in changing a culture? What role can they play in leading the organization to a new place? We all know about guidance, leadership solutions, providing vision, enabling teamwork, giving direction, providing strategy, communicating effectively, and setting goals. Those are all part of leadership. But there's a small part of leadership that has a tendency to delegate responsibility for certain things. And by doing that, it diminishes the importance of those things. Leadership never delegates financial management responsibility. Leadership always talks about the importance of cost, sales, return on sales, return on assets, and they make sure that we have things like financial controls, asset management, risk management in place with departments that manage it, because leadership knows fundamentally how important financial management is. If we use that same analogy as we used earlier and apply it to excellence and quality, there's a bunch of tasks that they have to carry out, which we call the non-delegable tasks, meaning if you delegate these tasks, there's a pretty good chance employees are going to look at that as you're not really interested. It would be like leadership having a department create a strategy and the leadership team never get involved in strategy development. That's not a leadership direction. So what are those non-delegable tasks? And I'm going to summarize them here for you. These tasks are usually not time-consuming, but they are important. They demonstrate commitment to anything new. When Dr. Juran was in the middle of his career, he was living in United Nations Plaza, and he was observing the United Nations Council of Nations that would come together to hash out or try to understand where each country was coming from and what could be done to have a better global society. Now, I'm not here to debate how that's going today, but at that time, Dr. Juran liked the word council. And he found that the organizations and the leaders of those organizations that truly led the cultural change, whether it be the Japanese companies of Toyota, or the American companies of Hewlett Packard, or the European companies of Renault, or anywhere else, there was one thing they had in common. The leaders formed a council where they spoke of nothing but what the customer expectation is and how well we're meeting that. In other words, he called it a quality council. And if you don't serve on that council, you don't learn about the other nations. You don't learn about the problems. So a quality council, some call them steering committees, some call them governance, some form of leadership that focuses on what we're talking about. Quality of design, quality of control, quality of improvement, engagement of workforce, all aimed at improving quality. You delegate that, you delegate the program, you delegate the results. We know when leadership shows up at something, it's important. When they don't show up at it, it's not important. Now, if I'm a very large company, 100,000 people, I don't see my leadership, but I do see my local leadership. So councils become interlocking events so that we can move information up and down and across easily. One of the first and most fundamental aspects of that leadership council is to realize that we need to invest in people just like we invest in equipment and buildings. People need to have training in the appropriate methods, so you leaders have to budget for it. You also have to give us some direction. Where do you want us to use these methods and tools? What are the goals? Do you want us to reduce the cost of poor quality by 1% or 20% or 50%? Do you want us to increase customer satisfaction by 100% or 2%? Transformation goals and the policies to carry them out are the role of leadership. Give us a new infrastructure. Help us create local councils. Help us create project by project improvement. Help us create learning platforms so we can learn the methodologies. Create review teams. Create the infrastructure that's going to help us make it happen. Provide resources. Give us champions. Give us leaders. Give us black belts. Give us lean experts. Provide the resources. Work is not done today as it was 20 years ago. We need these extra resources to spend time analyzing and improving. They will pay for themselves tenfold. If you do 1 through 5, don't ignore them. Review progress. Either review progress of the metrics or literally have teams present in front of you what they're doing, not just to make them feel good, but generally learn. The whole concept of a management review by ISO or a management review by Six Sigma or a Gemba walk is to see for yourself what's going on. If you don't do that, you're not going to know what's going on, or you're going to get it third and fourth hand, and you will not really get the feel for it. As you are there monitoring progress, you also can give recognition. Recognition for doing something different and new, not just recognition for being the top sales star or the top cost reducer. Give recognition to the efforts required to change this culture. That may require aligning the reward system. If you're rewarding for productivity, you'll get productivity. If you reward for customer experience, you'll get improved customer experience. If you don't align your reward system at some point, you don't do it right away, then you're going to have a conflict between your behaviors and your results. We will do what we get paid to do and rewarded to do. Act as a champion of change. If you don't know what a Six Sigma project is about or a lean event is about, champion one. Go participate and see what it is. And lastly, employees know the game. Here comes another one. Here comes another program. Here comes another thing you want me to do to help you be more profitable. You have to face those employee apprehensions. You have to deal with them. You can't say, hey, HR, go solve this. You have to address them and deal with them. Change does not come easy, but if you don't listen to these things, it just makes it even harder. There's a lot more information that you can find on the Juran website about the detail behind each one of these, but this will give you a sense that the quality principles of Juran begin with the universal sequences and universal methods and end with leadership. And in the eyes of Dr. Juran and my own now 35 years of experience, no organization ever improved its culture without the active participation of their leadership. I can't say what Dr. Juran said for his 100 years. He said, I've never seen an exception. As I've seen so far, I have not seen an exception. Now, where does that take us? In the first episode or session, we talked about results to increase sales, optimize costs, and develop loyal customers. We must have superior products, efficient processes, and good data, and a great customer experience. If we want to have great products, great processes, and great people, we need to make sure we have good innovative and design method, good breakthrough improvement method, and a good enterprise quality management system, not just one in production. And we have to create the means for employee engagement through the participation on these projects or improvement activities or events, improve their skill and talent development, and allow them to be engaged, and over time they will become accountable. In the next session, we're going to talk about the foundations, and that is the right methods, tools, and metrics, and more detail on what the infrastructure means, as well as a strategic choice to be the best. We begin with a more detailed discussion about the Juran framework, which is this whole picture and what it means and how to build it on June 26th. We will go into more detail on July 31st, the enablers on August 28th, and the roadmap for how to do all this on the 25th of September. And what we're going to be going through is we're going to be digging deeper into each one of these. So what does an enterprise quality management system look like? What is an effective means of employee engagement? So if you want to continue the journey with us, please do so. Sign up for the next webinar. If you would like to receive a certificate of completion, you must email me, and I've got a few little extra requirements for you to do. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for hanging in there. We didn't lose anybody from the start, and I appreciate that. If I went too fast, you can go and repeat this again by listening. If I went too slow, just turn it up twice the speed. Nonetheless, I look forward to being with you again next month. Dave, back to you.
Thanks, Joe. Fascinating tour. We do have a question, and it ties perhaps into that last concern about employees being anxious about change. Should designing a culture of excellence utilize a bottom-up or top-down approach?
Well, I would contradict myself if I said totally bottom-up, because employees don't have the ability or the resources to affect large parts of the organization. At the same time, all leaders don't move in mass, they move in single file. So bottom up, top down, bottom up occur because we planned it. In other words, if I want the bottom to help, I have to create a mechanism from the top. And if I'm at the bottom, I've got to have the ability to express myself and scream and yell that, hey, we need to do something. So most bottom-up programs can start, but they soon are taken over by a top-down, which is the right thing to do. Most top-down programs begin with good intention, and it's when the bottom starts to get it, they may have to go back and redo things. So I try to avoid answering it this way. An organization is not going to change its cover just from the bottom up, and it's not going to do it just from the top down. It's going to do it by bridging the gap between them, and that's building the infrastructure and moving together. And unfortunately, some of these mega companies are so big, it seems like they never get down to the bottom, but there's enough success today that says it's worth trying. Thanks for the question.
We throw a little bit of a curve into this issue about employee involvement and engagement. There's been a trend that we've all observed of temporary workforce, contingent workforce, sourcing out even key responsibilities through a network of other companies and then bringing it back together. How can you hold the tight commitment and focus on excellence when you have part of your workforce sort of on a ad hoc basis?
Yeah, there's a lot of temporary workforces, and there's even some planned temporary workforces. There's
Oh yeah.
a hospital that I worked with in Florida that, half their population decreases in the summer because all the snowbirds move out. So there's planned and unplanned. Unfortunately, I have to take the side of the employee on this one. It's the management's responsibility to make sure that whoever their employees are, they're capable of delivering the right job to deliver customer experience. That means we may have to invest in a part-time employee. That means we may have to train a part-time employee. And unfortunately, sometimes the cost of doing that is not a great return on investment. But the decision to use that part-time employee may not have come with a full understanding of the return on investment. Meaning, if we think of our employees as exchangeable and interchangeable parts, we don't have to train them, we don't have to nurture them, then they're probably not giving much credence to a part-time ad hoc employee. On the other hand, if you're a company that wants to pursue a culture of excellence and has to use part-time ad hoc members, then you need to make sure they're able to deliver the work properly. So I always side with the employee at the expense of the money a company spends, because today it doesn't take much for a part-time employee to be very close to a customer to messing things up. So when we think about the return on investment, we should really think about the cost of when a part-time employee makes a mistake, what is it going to cost us? The planned kind of part-time is a little bit different. We kind of know it's coming. We know who's willing to give up work for the summer per se. So that's not so much of a problem. But what it is a problem is repeatable performance. Interchangeable parts, repeatable performance. Therefore, once again, it relies on management to make sure they have really well-defined standard work, really well-defined controls, so that we can intersperse people who may not be as capable as the person they replaced. So one, management has to be sure to make sure that people know what to do. And two, management must make sure the process is, as we might be able to say, mistake-proofed enough so that people will not mess it up.
Thanks, Joe. I think we've worked our listeners pretty hard today. I urge you all to make sure you have that date for the next webinar, Wednesday, June 25th, and tune back in. In the meantime, you can reach us through the Juran website. You can reach Joe directly, and he's very responsive, as you can imagine, to any and all comments and questions. So thank you all, and look forward to talking to you in June.